You're listening to the Go Getter Podcast. I'm your host, Candace. I'm a digital marketing and automation strategist and business coach. I'm the CEO and founder of Epic Fab Girl, where we help Christian women entrepreneurs market and scale their service-based businesses beyond six figures as they grow deeper in their faith. So whether you're a coach, speaker, or a service provider, this podcast will drop gems, bringing you tips, strategies, and stories from experts to help you take your life, business, and relationship with God to the next level. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Go Getter Podcast. I'm your host, Candace, and today we're talking about one of the most asked questions I ever get. Like, literally. I get this question all the time. Like, how do I clarify my audience? How do I reach my target audience? Baby girl, we're going to talk about all of that today. So stay tuned. Literally, we are about to get into the tea of positioning yourself to, first of all, clarify who your audience is and then also actually reach them. And I think, especially as a business owner, it can be really easy to, when you first get started, be like, oh, I'm putting stuff out there, but nobody is like paying me any mind. Nobody's paying me any attention. And it can almost feel like really overwhelming. I know I have been there. It can feel depressing. It can feel sad. It can feel like there's a crowded market, which, that's another conversation for another day because people be thinking that markets are oversaturated. But I don't think that markets really have the potential to be saturated because there's always room for people to show up on the scene and do more, because that's how we see companies like McDonald's, Burger King, and Carl's Jr. all exist in the same markets and they all do well, but they selling hamburgers and fries. Like, I'm telling you, the market not saturated. You just think it is. Just because you see a bunch of people doing that same thing doesn't mean that the market is saturated. But that's another conversation for another day. And I really don't want to go on this tangent, but I really do want you to understand that there's room in the marketplace for you. Like, I want you to repeat after me. Pull over your car, do whatever you need to do. Stop whatever you're doing. Close your eyes and say, there's room in the market for me. There's room in the market that God literally carved out and placed out specifically just for me. All right. Now open your eyes and get it in your head. Like, literally, there is room for you in the marketplace. And there are people that are literally desperately waiting on you to do what God has called you to do. So you are doing yourself a disservice, as well as the people that you're called to, a disservice by not showing up in the marketplace, and also by making an excuse that you can't find them, especially when you came across the episode like this. I'm about to tell you how you can get in front of the right audience and how you can even clarify who your audience is. So first things first, let's talk about clarifying your audience. When we're talking about clarifying your audience, you have to get really specific. And I cannot stand it when people are like, when I ask them who their audience is, and they're like, I want to help women ages between 18 and 45. Okay. So you know how old your audience is and you know their ages, but that's really not enough. I also can't stand it when people are like, well, I want to help everybody. Okay. Let me just Google this real quick. How many people are on the planet? Okay. 7.888 billion. That was in 2021. We in 2024. Y'all, almost 8 billion people are on Earth. And you worried about a market being saturated and worried about if you can find the right audience. Like, and then on top of that, you worried about, trying to help everybody. Like, you cannot help 8 billion people. Like, 8 billion people is not your audience. So that's why you got to start getting specific, right? Get really, really specific on who your audience is. And I'm going to tell you how you can get a little bit more specific and understand like what that looks like for you, right? So getting clear on your audience is asking yourself, who are these people, right? Sure, they may be women 18 to 45, but like you got women who are 18 to 45 that are illiterate and can't read. You got people that are 18 to 45 who are working professionals. You got women who are 18 to 25 that may be mothers. You got women that are 18 to 45 who may be like the high earners of the world. Like, you got to figure out who your audience is. Like, do they speak English, or are they bilingual? Like, who is your audience? Like, and it's not enough to just say, oh, these are the demographics of them. Like, start thinking about the things and the commonalities amongst them. For example, with me, with Epic Fab Girl, we service Christian women entrepreneurs. And for a long time, that was enough. But then we were like, let's get a little more specific. We help service providers. But then I'm like, let's get a little more specific. We help speakers, coaches, and service providers. So our audience is very, very clear. We've niched down to really only focusing on service-based businesses with the work that we do. And I think it's important for you as well to like really clear and clarify your audience by way of figuring out like what types of people you want to serve, who they are. And one of the most important things about like your niche and really clarifying your audience is figuring out the angle in which you want to serve them. So even though we service Christian women entrepreneurs, we're not serving them to like build their websites out. We're serving them to give them marketing strategy to grow their business, increase their sales, make more money, and scale their businesses to 6 figures and beyond. We're not doing their website design. We're not doing their social media management. All of those things are aspects of growing a successful business, but that does not mean that we're trying to hit them on that angle. So your audience is so important, and figuring out your right audience, but clarifying your audience also comes with you kind of figuring out like how they need to be served and the angle that you want to approach them with on their journey. And then the other thing is like there are so many different angles that you can approach your audience with. So it's just really important to kind of align on what you want to do, how you want to serve them, and the angle that you want to approach them, because that's going to be the thing that narrows and helps to narrow your niche. The other thing is to be very specific. Like I talked a little bit about that, but specificity is like if you send somebody shopping for you and you need something, like, and let's say they're clothes shopping. If you just say like, go buy me a dress, like they gonna go and they gonna be lost in that store looking for that dress. They're gonna be like, like, is she going to a fancy dinner, or is she going to a gala? Is she going to a graduation? Or is this a dress for every day and work? Or is this a vacation dress? Like, a dress is not specific. Just buy me a dress. Like, where are you going with this dress on? What size does it need to be? Are there any colors that you want and don't want? Like, I think that's how we need to think about our audiences when it comes to specificity. Like, how specific are you going to get? But if you're saying, okay, hey, I need a little black dress. It cannot show any cleavage. I can have my arms out, but I want it to be like, maybe above my knee, or, it could be a midi dress. It needs to be this size, large or extra large, whatever the size is. And you can tell them, it can be black, or if you want to have sequins on it, it can be black sequins. But no, I just don't want to wear the color red, right? Like that's the level of specificity. Like if you were sending somebody to the store to buy a dress, that you could say, oh, I know what type of dress to go get this person. And you might even tell them like, okay, I need a little black dress. I have an elegant, like, gala that I'm going to. There's going to be a ton of attorneys and judges there. So I can look, classy and, no cleavage and all the things. Like you could say all the stuff, but if you give that level of specificity, then you're able to basically help that person get a much better idea of what to, pull out for you, so that they can understand like what type of styles and all of the things. So I think it's just really important, even when it comes to your audience. I really hope that analogy helps you understand that it's not specific enough just to say women. Like, y'all know that like there's a ton of women on the planet. Like there's 8 billion people on the planet Earth. Like, and y'all, I get to talking about how God got a relationship with all of them. So that's a whole nother conversation. Jesus died for all of them. And that's just the people that's alive. So that'll send you. There's too many people. You do not have the capacity to serve that many people. You are not God, okay? You are not God, okay? You don't have that capacity, but you do have the ability to niche down and really ask God, like, okay, who is the audience that I'm focused on, and how can I get really specific about what I do and like tailor it down even more so, okay? I'll bring up this story of George Washington Carver that always has like really, really blessed me. If you didn't already know, he was a believer. So George Washington Carver, he's very well known for, all of the things that he found out about the peanut. But one of the things about his journey was that he literally talked to God, and he would go on these nature walks and he would tell God, like, Lord, show me the purpose of life. And God would be like, yeah, no, that's too much for you. Like that, like that's too much for me to reveal to you. And then he would be like, well, reveal to me the purpose of humanity. He's like, not going to do that. Too much for you to understand. Then he's like, well, reveal to me the purpose of like animals and nature. And he's like, no, that's too much. So then he's like, well, reveal to me plants. And he's like, yeah, no, that's too much. You got to narrow it down. And so he finally drills it down all the way down to the peanut. And God is like, aha, this is the one. I'm going to give you all of the ways in which you can dissect the peanut. And what I find to be so intriguing about his story is that the peanut literally is the base for a lot of things. Like God literally gave him revelation specifically for the peanut, how he was able to break it down into like the amino acids and all the other forms of, it at its biological, like basic chemistry state. I don't know. Like I studied mechanical engineering. I ain't got nothing to do with biology and all that. But my point is he was able to break it down. And we know that peanuts today, open the door for deodorant, shaving cream, we know peanut butter, peanut oil. Like there's so many different things that you can get out of a peanut just because God revealed to that one man his purpose for a very specific niche. Okay. And so I personally believe that when you get really clear and really specific and ask God to help you hone in on like who your audience is and really niching down, that's where revelation can come from. Like you can serve those people in so many different ways on a level that nobody else serves them. And that's why I think the importance of really clarifying who your audience is really important.
If you've learned anything from this podcast, I know you're going to love the Go Getter Confidential Click at GoGetterMembership.com. It's a global membership community for Christian women entrepreneurs to connect, build wildly profitable service-based businesses, and grow their faith. So whether you're just getting started with an idea or you already have an established brand and you want to lay the foundation for six-figure income, the Go Getter membership is just what you need. With expert masterclasses, monthly prayer, and tons of courses and downloads, your business will be better because of it. Entrepreneurship isn't easy, but this community will help you go from feeling stuck to clear and motivated. Join today at GoGetterMembership.com and save 50% off your first 3 months when you use code podcast at checkout. We'll see you inside.
Now, you may be wondering, in addition to like your audience, like one of the other things I'll say before I transition into how to reach your audience is to figure out where they're at on their journey, right? So yes, you may have an audience that you're choosing to serve, but like you don't want, like, let's say if you want to help college students, you might not necessarily want to help college students who are new to college. You may want to help college students who have been in school for a while and now they're trying to position themselves to get a job out of college, right? Someone who's just getting into college and it's their first semester is going to have a very different experience than a first semester senior, right? And so you just have to ask yourself and start to get specific about like, okay, where is this person at on their journey? And pinpointing where someone is on their journey, and that may help you. So for me, a lot of the work that we do here at Epic Fab Girl, we don't help people. Yes, in our membership, we may help people that are like kind of starting their businesses, but we typically help people that have already established a business, know the business that they, want to roll with, but they're struggling to get clients and customers, and they've maybe already established the brand. And those are the types of people that we want to help and serve, because we know that they're at a place in their journey where they already have the clarity and they're not jumping around to 12 different ideas, right? And so we've learned over the years, like, oh, okay, our niche is people that are in a very specific place that are looking for a very specific result, and we can deliver on that result. And that's how we're able to make a lot of money and make a lot of impact, is because we are very specific and we are very niched down, okay? And so now that you have laid the foundation for really clarifying who your audience is and really coming up with a way to very clearly point that out for yourself so that other people can understand it, it's important to figure out how you're going to reach them. So when you're very clear on who your audience is, you are also clear on how they spend their time. You're clear on where they're at in their journey. You're clear on not just everything that's going on in their life, like in terms of your business and how the area that you're going to help them in, but you may also be very clear on their life outside of that. And that's what I find to be most interesting when it comes to business, is to really help people get an understanding of outside of their life of, business, because their world does not just simply revolve around the work that you're going to help them do. It may be a large part, but their world is not completely, inundated with, whatever you do. Like, let's say you're an ads person, like their entire world isn't all about ads. They got maybe kids at home that they're trying to make sure they're good, and they got to pick up kids after school. They got to make dinner. They got to manage the home. Like, you got to figure out where your audience is, where they're at in their journey on, their journey to success, as well as their journey in life. Like, where are they at? Like, what does it look like? And when you have a better understanding of that, then you can reach them better with these two really important things. So when we talk about reach, I think reach is about positioning and placement in the right places. And it's also about messaging. So positioning, it really for me is like about how can you go and be where your audience is, right? So if you have millennial moms, 9 times out of 10, they're on TikTok, okay? Right? They're probably on Instagram, but maybe your audience is baby boomers, or maybe your audience is Gen X, right? Maybe if that's your audience, they may be on Facebook, or maybe they are on Instagram. Like, you got to figure out where these people are at. If they're parents, maybe they're at PTA association meetings. Like, where are these people at? Like, figure out where they actually spend their day and time. Like, let's say if you're a Christian-based business owner and you want to help Christians in a specific sector, they go to church. Like, you can find them at somebody's local church. Like, I'm telling y'all, like, you got to figure out where your audience is so that you can get plugged in and really position yourselves in front of them so that you can be seen as an expert and they can view you as an expert just because of the place that you're putting yourself on. So showing up in front of your audience isn't just about showing up in front of your audience on the platforms that they're on in social media, but it's also like, what events are they going to? Like, how do they spend their day? Are they at brunch every weekend? Like, how can you post up at somebody's brunch? Like, what is it that you need to do to position yourself to be in front of the audience that you're specifically looking for and looking to attract? Now, one of the best things that you can do in the marketplace in general, regardless of where you show up, to get the attention of your audience when you are in those platforms and in those spaces, whether you are, showing up with a billboard or showing up in the newspaper or running an ad on social media, one of the most important things that you can do is create messaging that speaks directly to them. So you might be wondering, like, what do you mean when you say messaging? So marketing messaging is like just how you communicate what you do to your audience and how you're going to benefit them. So our messaging at Epic Fab Girl is that we help Christian women entrepreneurs who are speakers, coaches, and service providers scale and market their service-based businesses to 6 figures and beyond. So our messaging is about helping women get to 6 figures and helping them market more effectively. Those are things that people care about most. So those are going to be things that perk up their ears. I have a client that I'm thinking of in particular, who she actually is a tutor, and she helps to get students on track after they've fallen behind due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's so interesting because it's like she has a very specific niche of tutoring people that have fallen behind, and she can really specifically focus in and hone in on that particular niche because of where people are at and where, she knows that they need to go. So even though she's offering tutoring services and offering, all of this educational advancement, speaking the proper language, if a parent hears that and says, ooh, my kid was in the 6th grade to the 8th grade during 2020 to, 2022, and it really impacted their, XYZ. then that parent can hear that and they'll say, "Ooh, I need that." And that's ultimately what your messaging is going to get people to do. The way that you communicate your offer and your services and what you do is going to be the thing that is going to draw people to you. And the thing that I love to use as an example, if you're in an airport and you hear somebody yell, let's say your name is Erica, and they're like, "Erica, Erica," you're going to turn around and you're going to be like, "Oh, they calling my name. Let me, Erica, like, yes, you calling me?" Like, you've been somewhere where you thought somebody was calling your name before and they wasn't. But if you think somebody calling your name, you turn around real swift. But a lot of y'all are in marketplaces saying, "Women, hey, anybody out there?" Like, that's basically what you're saying. And that's the effort you're giving to your marketing. Like, you trying to talk to everybody and it's not getting anybody attention. So when you start to get more specific, like, "Hey, Christian women and entrepreneurs who are service providers," you like, "Ooh, that's me," right? Like, you are like, "Ooh, my ears are perking up," right? And your target audience, you just got to be clear and reach them in spaces and show up in places that they're at, and also use messaging that is going to help them. So how you clarify and reach your target audience, of course, you need to know who they are, know the angle that you're going to approach them at. You need to be very specific. You need to make sure that you understand the point in the journey that they're at, as well as reaching them. You need to find out where they are and speak their language so that they can hear you and pay attention to what you're talking about and, opt in. Okay. So I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. As always, we love you guys. We're praying for you. Thank you for hanging out with me. I will see you on the next episode of the Go Getter Podcast. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Go Getter Podcast. If you love this conversation, you're going to love the panels and workshops that are at Go Getter Conference. It's our premier event of the year, and it happens annually. It's going to help you market and monetize your God-given ideas and connect with women from across the globe. Head over to gogetterconference.com to check it out right now. And just for staying until the end of this episode, we have a special gift for you, the Go Getter Plan and Profit Workbook. This workbook is going to help you plan your income for the year. So head to gogetterpodcast.com/plan and profit to get your copy. And don't forget to drop a 5-star review if you enjoyed this episode. We'll see you on the next episode of the Go Getter Podcast.